Welcome back into the ASUG News Studio. My name is Tom Whalegum from asugnews.com. Well, we've got a great session coming up here from a couple of gentlemen from the University of Cincinnati. Go Bearcats?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Not for you,
Not
right,
for me
Xavier?
a little bit. Xavier grad.
Well, Jonathan Gordon, welcome into the news studio.
Thank you.
And Larry Suttles, welcome in. We appreciate you guys coming in. You had your session, which we'll get into. How did that session go for you guys?
Went very well. We had a lot of attendees that really enjoyed our session.
That's always nice to get that feedback.
Absolutely.
Oh, positive feedback's great.
So let's hear a little bit, I know you went to Xavier, but let's hear a little bit your perspective on the University of Cincinnati and what you guys do there.
Well, the University of Cincinnati, we have over 42,000 students enrolled at the university, and many of those students actually are employed with the university. We do payroll. I work in the payroll operations department at the university, and we do payroll for over 14,000 employees. So that makes us one of the largest employers in the Cincinnati region. We have biweekly paid employees and monthly paid employees, so we're actually running 2 payrolls for our employees instead of just 1.
Okay, so that gives a little complication in there, but as we'll see, you guys figured this out.
Exactly, and it helps spread the payroll out a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Larry, give us a brief overview of the kind of SAP landscape there. What are you guys running?
Sure. Well, back in July 2005, we went live with about 10 different FI modules, of which like grant management, cash management, accounts payable, accounts receivable, quite a few of them.
Okay.
And then in 2006, a year later, we went live with HR modules, payroll, OM, benefits, PA, time management. I do time management and payroll.
Okay.
And we also instituted positional budget control, PBC, which is part of financials. Then the last thing we went live with was in 2011 with public budget formulation, PBF. So that's our last project.
I just thought it was like one payroll system. Like, you just named like 30. That's a lot of stuff running in there.
Yeah, and to mention, all our HR modules are all concurrent employment, which adds a little bit of complexity to it.
So what does that mean, sorry, concurrent employment?
Concurrent employment, I'll let Jonathan take it.
Yeah, we have 5,000 hourly employees, and
Okay.
of those, we have 600 employees that have concurrent employment.
Okay.
And what that means is they might be working in one department or one assignment and working in the same or possibly a different department in another assignment. So that actually created a lot of issues that we had to overcome in our project that we're talking with you today about.
Yeah, we're going to get into some of the creative solutions that you guys, came up with and were able to do. What was some of the payroll-related challenges that you guys were facing, and why, there needed to be some type of solution?
Well, we were coming up to a point when our third-party system needed a software upgrade for one, but in addition, our hardware was so out of date, we had to really redo the entire hardware structure. So we decided to, do white paper and see what would be the best solution. And we've been trying to use University of Cincinnati to incorporate everything within SAP. So we looked at SAP and we looked at different things we could do, and we liked what we have with CATS, because we already used CATS to record our monthly absences, our negative reporting, so to speak. And we saw where we could use the timesheet to kind of mimic what we were already doing in our third-party timesheet. It kind of looked similar, so we knew we wanted to go with CATS.
Okay.
Now we also had the requirement to capture raw clock times. We didn't want.
What is that, sorry?
Well, where employee actually clocks in, says
Okay.
I'm clocking in, I'm clocking out.
Okay.
We didn't want an employee to tell payroll, I've worked 8 hours.
Right.
We
That
couldn't
would be
do
interesting.
That would
make
definitely create an issue, and
Yes.
the honor system for over
Right.
14,000 employees doesn't necessarily work quite well.
Right.
Right. And we also had other issues. Knowing that we were going to bring this into our main ERP system, we knew there'd be scheduled downtimes, possible unscheduled downtimes. So we had to come up with a solution to get around that area as well, so employees can still clock in and out during the downtimes. We also knew that basic SAP delivered functionality for CATS, it didn't record any deletions or changes to a CATS timesheet prior to approval. Well, when you got 300 plus timekeepers, mistakes are made, and there was no audit trail prior to being approval, so we had to come up with a solution for that. And finally, we have meal breaks, unpaid meal breaks. There's a lot of people who have it built into their schedule, but there's a lot of schedules that don't have meal breaks, where people clock in, clock out for meals. And we don't want the timekeepers to actually change the clock in and clock out times.
Okay.
So in order to get around that, we created a solution to solve that problem.
So there was no SAP solution that existed out there, but yet you needed to tie back into all these other solutions. Is that a fair statement?
It's fair. SAP did have a method where we can use input type 2011 for events.
Yeah.
But from what we gathered, what we got from other areas or universities and such,
Yep.
it was a kind of a complex approval process. And another reason why we went to CATS, I forgot to mention this earlier, is they have a nice structured approval process already in place.
Okay.
Something we were already using for our monthly employees to approve the exempt time off.
Okay.
So we liked what we saw and we wanted to incorporate that.
So you had to get a little creative.
A little bit.
So what did you do?
Well, unfortunately, we didn't have any. We contacted a few universities to see what they were doing with their
Yep.
time management and how they were using SAP. And unfortunately, the scope that we needed as far as the audit reports and capturing raw clock times, they weren't doing things the way that we needed to be done at our university. So really, we feel like we're kind of the pioneers in how we went about this project.
So the pioneer. So was that?
Yeah,
Did you
buddy.
feel risky a little bit in that no one really else had done it? I mean, that's
It
some risk.
was definitely, I guess you could say, risky, but as Larry mentioned, he was speaking about all the white paper studies that were done, and when we figured, since we already owned the personnel time management module, and that was already being used to bring in the data from the third party into SAP, that it made sense and we were able to do our own project in-house with SAP.
So what did it look like? How does it look today? How's it working?
Well, to get around the recording of hourly times, we ask that employees, when they do clock in and out, that they say, I'm clocking in and I'm clocking out. And what that allowed us to do is to build logic around that. And that was one of our biggest concerns, was how are we going to do this clocking logic, because we have to develop it ourselves. Well, we actually hired a SAP consultant to come in for 4 weeks and work with us to build a solution based on our functional data specs in our logic. And once he was there for a couple of weeks and we had something we could test with, he then started doing knowledge transfer, and then we were able to tweak our clocking logic.
Okay.
Now our clocking logic is pretty complex, so I don't want to get into the entire thing because that would take up.
Yeah, we probably don't need to do that.
Right, but just to give you a basic example, an employee comes in at 8 o'clock in the morning, they clock in. In order to get that clock time to show up in CATS, you have to have a time period. You have to have an in and an out time period. So what we did is we created a derived out time. We put 23:59 on that clock time, and behind the scenes we have a custom status of 90, and that allows that time period to be on the record so the supervisors in our maintenance areas can run reports to see who is actually there, so they can schedule jobs based on who's showing up and who's not showing up. Now, when the employee does clock out, say at 5 p.m., the logic first looks, see, is there a derived time on today's date? If so, replace it. If not, do this. If not, do this. There's a lot of logic involved.
Okay.
And it's worked very well for us.
And there's a couple different ways they can clock in and clock out. Is that true?
That's correct. There's 3 clocking methods that were developed in-house at UC, and I think that's one of the key words that Larry keeps saying is custom logic was created. We did create a lot of custom logic in-house. But the 3 custom clocking methods that we created was the portal. So they would do that in SAP on the portal.
Okay.
They would clock either on the swiping station or the mobile app.
Okay.
Now the mobile app, what that's useful for is for employees that might have to be asked to work in Timbuktu. For example, we have Hawksworth mobile blood units that are constantly traveling all around the Cincinnati region. And if they're asked to clock in and clock out, if they don't have easy access to a portal or swiping station, they can use their mobile phone or a tablet device to clock in and clock out.
That's pretty cool.
That's very cool. And the swiping station that we use, it's very neat as well. What they're able to do is just swipe their ID badge and click clock in or clock out, and they're done. So that's useful for the areas that have a high number of volume of employees.
Is that so that there are big areas where you guys know and times probably as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. That was a big issue that that was the big reason that we created so many clocking methods.
Right.
We wanted to make sure that employees could clock in and out in a timely manner, and the swiping station is the best for that, especially with large number of employees.
Yeah, there are some areas within facilities where they may have 20 employees standing in line waiting to clock in. And to get 20 employees within a 10-minute grace period, because we do incorporate 5-minute grace periods on the clock times, you need a fast method in order to do that, and our swiping method did that.
Do you guys ever go out and see those areas and be like, hey, we created that? Like, hey, 'cause I'm
Actually-
sure everyone comes up and says, hey, thank you.
Well, to put us on report here, actually, after we went live, we were using technology that included ActiveX. And every time they would swipe, clock out, clock in, all of our stuff within the development side of the house worked great. But for the website itself to refresh, that was taking 30, 40 seconds.
Okay.
10 minutes, 20 employees, do the math, it doesn't
Yeah.
work out too well. So our University of Cincinnati's main IT department, who helped us collaborate all this, they actually redid it, took out the ActiveX controls, and I'm not sure the exact technology they use, but now it's refreshing very quickly,
Instantaneous.
so there's not an issue anymore.
Great. Well, guys, thanks for coming in and sharing your story. Glad to hear the success, and hopefully more success in the future.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. For more stories, check out asugnews.com. We are reporting live from ASUG Annual Conference and Sapphire Now.